Hey, I'm Claire, and I'm here to share Molly's story with you. It's called Asterisk. My family refused to reschedule their Mexico trip despite my son's funeral. We spent $8,000, and they said his death was my problem. So, I cut ties with my parents and sister. A surprise was waiting when they returned. Asterisk, let's dive in. I'm Molly, 37 years old, and 6 months ago, my life shattered in an instant. I was married to David for 15 years. He was 39, a banker who loved fishing almost as much as he loved me and our son, Tommy. At 12, Tommy was a smart kid, acing school and shining in Little League. We lived in a cozy house, nothing fancy, but it was home. David also owned a downtown apartment from his grandmother. Since we didn't need it, we let my sister Emma and her husband Jake live there rent-free to help them save. Emma's 3 years younger than me, married Jake 2 years ago, and I was thrilled for her. She'd had rough luck with relationships, but Jake seemed solid. He sold cars. She worked as a dental receptionist. They weren't rolling in money, so David and I figured letting them stay in the apartment was the least we could do. Family looks out for family, right? My parents, Robert and Linda, lived 20 minutes away. Dad's retired from the post office, Mom from the library. Both in their 60s, they seemed close to me. I called often, helped with groceries, and fixed things when Dad's arthritis flared up. That Saturday in January felt like any other. David and Tommy were buzzing to go fishing at Cedar Lake. They'd planned it all week, thrilled about the perfect weather. By 8 a.m., they were off in David's truck, loaded with gear and sandwiches I'd packed. I waved from the door, feeling like the luckiest woman alive. I spent the day on routine stuff, cleaning, laundry, groceries. By 5 p.m., I was cooking dinner, expecting them home soon. David always promised they'd be back by 6 for Tommy's homework. But 6 came and went. Then 7. I called David's phone straight to voicemail. Spotty lake service, I figured. By 8, worry crept in. I brushed it off, thinking maybe they had car trouble. Then at 8:47 p.m., the doorbell rang. I glanced at the clock, expecting a neighbor. Instead, 2 police officers stood there. "Are you Molly Patterson?" the older one asked. My heart sank. You know that gut punch when you know something's horribly wrong? That was it. "Yes," I whispered. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Rodriguez." "This is Officer Chen. May we come in?" I let them into my living room. My legs felt like jelly. Officer Rodriguez sat down across from me while Officer Chen stood by the door. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but your husband and son were involved in a serious car accident this evening." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Are they okay? Where are they?" Officer Rodriguez looked down at his notepad. The accident occurred at approximately 6:15 p.m. on Route 34, about 5 miles from Cedar Lake. A drunk driver ran a red light and hit your husband's truck on the driver's side. "Just tell me if they're alive," I said, my voice cracking. "Ma'am, your husband was pronounced dead at the scene." "I'm very sorry." The world went silent. I heard the words, but they didn't make sense. David dead? That was impossible. He'd kissed me goodbye that morning. He was supposed to come home and tell me about all the fish they caught. What about Tommy? I managed to ask. "Your son is alive, but he's in critical condition. He suffered multiple injuries, including severe head trauma. He's been taken to St. Mary's Hospital and is currently in surgery." I don't remember much after that. Officer Chin drove me to the hospital while Officer Rodriguez followed in my car. The next few hours were a blur of waiting rooms, doctors in scrubs, and words I didn't want to understand: traumatic brain injury, induced coma, touch and go. When I finally got to see Tommy, he looked so small in that hospital bed, surrounded by machines and tubes. His head was bandaged, his face swollen and bruised. The doctor, a woman named Dr. Martinez, explained that they'd relieve the pressure on his brain, but there was no way to know when or if he'd wake up. I called my parents from the hospital that night. Mom answered on the 3rd ring. "Molly, it's almost midnight." "What's wrong?" "Mom," I said, and then I couldn't say anything else because I was sobbing. "Honey, what happened?" "David's dead." I finally got out. "There was an accident. Tommy's in a coma." There was silence on the other end. Then Mom said, "Oh my God, oh Molly, we'll be right there." But they didn't come right away. They came the next morning, looking uncomfortable and tired. Dad hugged me awkwardly. Mom patted my shoulder. They stayed for an hour, asked a few questions about what happened, then said they needed to get home to make some phone calls. "We'll help you with the funeral arrangements," Mom said. "Don't worry about anything." But when I called them the next day to talk about planning David's service, Mom's voice was different, distant. "Actually, honey, we can't really help with the arrangements. Emma and Jake are moving into David's apartment this week, and we promised we'd help them get settled." I was confused. "But, Mom, David just died. The funeral is more important than helping them move." "Of course it is," she said quickly. "But we already committed to this, and you know how Emma gets when plans change. We'll be at the funeral, of course. We just can't help with the planning." I hung up, feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. My husband was dead. My son was fighting for his life. And my family was worried about moving furniture. I planned David's funeral completely alone: the funeral home, the flowers, the casket. I made every decision by myself while my family was busy moving Emma and Jake into David's downtown apartment. The service was simple. People came. They said nice things about David, and then we buried him. My parents, Emma and Jake, showed up at the last minute, sat through the ceremony, and left quickly afterward. After David died, I inherited everything he owned: the house we lived in, the downtown apartment where Emma and Jake now lived rent-free, and his bank account with $800,000. David had been smart with money and had a good life insurance policy. I was financially secure, which was the only good thing in my life at that point. I decided to cut back to part-time at my job at the accounting firm. Money wasn't an issue anymore, and I wanted to spend as much time as possible with Tommy. The doctor said coma patients could sometimes hear voices, so I read to him every day: Harry Potter, his favorite adventure books, even his homework assignments from school. "Your teacher says you're doing great in math," I'd tell him, holding his hand. "She's saving all your assignments for when you wake up." I talked to him about everything: baseball scores, what was happening at school, funny things I saw on TV. I told him about his father, about how proud David would be that Tommy was fighting so hard. But Tommy never responded. His breathing was steady, his heart rate was stable, but he never squeezed my hand back or showed any sign that he could hear me. The doctors were kind but realistic. Severe brain injuries like his rarely had happy endings. 6 months passed. I fell into a routine of work in the mornings, hospital visits in the afternoons, and lonely evenings at home. Emma and Jake settled into the apartment nicely. They'd call occasionally to thank me for letting them stay there, but they never asked how Tommy was doing or if I needed anything. My parents visited Tommy exactly 3 times in those 6 months. Each visit lasted maybe 20 minutes before they found an excuse to leave. "Hospitals make me nervous," Mom would say. "Your father's arthritis is acting up. We should get home." It was a Tuesday morning in July when Dr. Martinez called me at work. I was in the middle of reviewing quarterly reports when my phone rang. "Mrs. Patterson, this is Dr. Martinez from St. Mary's Hospital. I need you to come in right away." I dropped everything and drove to the hospital. Dr. Martinez met me in the hallway outside Tommy's room, and I knew immediately from her face that the news was bad. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm very sorry. Tommy passed away about an hour ago. His body just couldn't fight anymore." The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually stumbled backward and had to grab the wall to stay upright. "But he was stable," I said. "Yesterday, he looked the same as always." Sometimes with brain injuries this severe, the body just gives up. There was nothing more we could do. "I'm so sorry." I went into Tommy's room and held him for the last time. He looked peaceful, like he was just sleeping. I kept expecting him to open his eyes and ask what was wrong, but he never did. My baby boy was gone. I drove home in a daze and sat in my empty house for hours, crying until I had no tears left. Then I picked up the phone and called my parents. "Mom, Tommy died today." There was a pause. "Oh, Molly, I'm sorry to hear that." Her voice was flat, almost businesslike. Not the voice of a grandmother who just lost her grandson. "I need help with the funeral arrangements," I said. "I can't do this alone again." "Well, that's going to be a problem," Mom said. We can't help you with that, and we won't be able to attend the funeral either. I thought I'd misheard her. What? Tomorrow, we're flying to Mexico with Emma and Jake for a family vacation. We've had this planned for months. Mom, my son just died. Your grandson just died. Surely you can reschedule a vacation. Absolutely not, she said sharply. Do you have any idea how much money we spent on this trip? $8,000. The vouchers can't be rescheduled, or we'll lose everything. The money will just disappear. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're choosing a vacation over Tommy's funeral? Molly, you're a strong woman. You'll cope with this on your own, just like you did with David's funeral. You don't really need us there. And then she hung up. I sat there staring at the phone, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. Before I could even process what had just happened, my phone rang again. It was Emma. Molly, Mom just called me, she said without any greeting. Look, I'm really sorry about Tommy, but there's no way we're canceling this trip. She didn't sound sorry at all. She sounded annoyed. Emma, it's Tommy's funeral. He's your nephew. His death is your problem, not mine, she shouted. I'm pregnant now, okay? This might be my last chance to relax and have fun before the baby comes. I've been looking forward to this trip for months, and I'm not giving it up because your son died. I was so shocked by her cruelty that I couldn't speak. You have no right to expect us to cancel our vacation, Emma continued. We already paid for everything, and I need this break. So deal with your own problems and leave us alone. She hung up too. I sat in my living room in complete silence. In the span of 10 minutes, my family had made it clear that a vacation was more important to them than my dead child. That I was completely alone in this world. But you know what? In that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Clarity. For the first time since David's accident, my mind was completely clear. I knew exactly what I had to do. First, I would bury my son. Then, I would deal with my family. I called my friend Claire and she came over immediately. Together, we planned Tommy's funeral. Just like with David, I made all the decisions myself. But this time, I wasn't expecting my family to show up. I wasn't expecting them to help or support me or even pretend to care. Tommy's funeral was held on a Thursday morning. It was a small service. Just me, Claire, a few of David's co-workers who remembered Tommy from company picnics, and Mrs. Rodriguez, Tommy's teacher, who had driven an hour to be there. The pastor spoke about how Tommy was reunited with his father in heaven, and I tried to find comfort in that thought. I didn't cry during the service. I'd done all my crying at home. Instead, I felt this strange sense of calm, like I was watching everything happen to someone else. When they lowered Tommy's small casket into the ground next to David's grave, I just stood there, thinking about how my entire family was on a beach in Mexico while I buried my child. After the funeral, Claire offered to stay with me, but I told her I needed to be alone. I had things to do, and I needed to do them by myself. The first thing I did was drive to David's apartment where Emma and Jake lived. I had a key, of course. It was my apartment. I let myself in and started packing their belongings, everything, clothes, books, kitchen stuff, that ugly lamp Jake's mother had given them. I packed it all into boxes and garbage bags, working methodically and quietly. It took me 3 hours to pack up their entire life. While I worked, I thought about how they were probably sipping drinks by the pool right now, posting photos on social media, having the time of their lives while I was alone at my son's funeral. I called a moving company and paid them extra to come out the same day. I had a key to my parents' house too. They'd given it to me years ago for emergencies. But instead of being neat about it, I had the movers dump everything in a pile in their living room. Boxes, bags, loose items, all of it just thrown together in the middle of their carpet. Then I called a locksmith and had all the locks changed on the apartment. New deadbolt, new doorknob, new everything. Emma and Jake's keys wouldn't work anymore. Next, I went home and opened my laptop. I logged into my bank account and started canceling automatic payments. I'd been paying for so many things for my family over the years that I'd almost forgotten about some of them. My parents' car insurance, canceled. Their health insurance supplement, canceled. The subscription to Dad's magazine about woodworking, canceled. Mom's Netflix account that she could never figure out how to pay for herself, canceled. The monthly payment I made to their credit card to help with groceries, canceled. Emma's phone bill, canceled. Her car payment that I'd been helping with, since she got married, canceled. The gym membership I'd bought her as a wedding gift, canceled. As I went through each cancellation, I remembered why I'd started paying for these things in the first place. The car insurance was when Dad retired and money got tight. The phone bill was when Emma couldn't find a job after college. The car payment was a wedding gift because I wanted to help them start their marriage debt-free. I'd been so generous with my family, so eager to help whenever they needed money. I paid for Emma's entire wedding, $23,000, because I wanted her to have the perfect day. When Mom needed new glasses last year, I bought them. When Dad's truck needed repairs, I covered it. Looking at all those canceled payments, I realized I'd been giving my family about $3,000 a month, every month for years. While I was doing this, my phone buzzed with notifications. Emma was posting photos from Mexico on Instagram and Facebook, her and Jake on the beach, looking tanned and happy, my parents at a beachside restaurant, smiling and raising their drinks in a toast. Emma had captioned one photo, "So grateful to be here with my amazing family, who supports me in everything." I screenshot every photo, every caption. I wanted to remember this moment, this feeling of absolute clarity about who these people really were. 3 days passed. I went to work, came home, made dinner for one, and waited. I knew they'd be back from Mexico soon, and I was actually looking forward to their return. For the first time in months, I felt like I was in control of something. On Sunday evening, my phone started ringing. First my parents, then Emma, then Jake, then my parents again. I didn't answer any of the calls. I was sitting in my living room, sorting through Tommy's belongings to donate to charity, and I let the phone ring and ring. The voicemails started after about an hour of unanswered calls. Mom's voice, tight with anger, "Molly, what did you do to Emma's apartment? Why are all their things here? Call me back right now." Emma, practically screaming, "What the hell is wrong with you? We can't get into the apartment, and all our stuff is gone. Call me back, or I'm calling the police." Jake, trying to sound reasonable, "Hey Molly, I think there's been some kind of mistake. Can you call us back so we can sort this out?" Dad, confused, "Molly, honey, there's a big mess here at the house. Can you please call and explain what happened?" I deleted all the voicemails without listening to them completely. Then I blocked all their numbers, but they didn't give up. Around 10 o'clock, I heard cars pulling into my driveway, then loud knocking on my front door. "Molly, open this door right now," Emma was shouting. I looked out the window and saw all 4 of them standing on my porch: Mom, Dad, Emma, and Jake. They looked angry and confused and tired from their flight. Emma was pounding on the door with her fist. I took a deep breath and walked to the door. This conversation was going to happen whether I wanted it or not, and I was ready for it. I opened the door and looked at their faces. Emma's was red with anger. Jake looked embarrassed, and my parents looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. "We need to talk," Mom said, pushing past me into my house. They all followed her into my living room and stood there, looking at me like I'd committed some terrible crime. "What the hell did you think you were doing?" Emma demanded. "Our stuff is thrown all over Mom and Dad's house like garbage, and we can't get into our apartment." I looked at her calmly. "It's not your apartment anymore. I changed the locks. You're evicted." Emma's mouth dropped open. "You can't evict us. We have rights." "Actually, I can," I said. "It's my apartment. I inherited it when David died. I've been letting you live there rent-free as a favor, but that favor is over." Emma stepped forward. "Look, I get that you're upset about Tommy, okay? But that doesn't give you the right to destroy our lives. We have nowhere to go. You should have thought about that before you told me his death was my problem and not yours." The silence in my living room was deafening. Emma looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. She knew exactly what she'd said to me, and she knew I remembered every word. "I was upset," Emma said weakly. "I didn't mean it the way it sounded. You told me my son's death was my problem, not yours," I said. "You said you needed to relax before your baby came, so Tommy's funeral wasn't important enough to cancel your vacation for." Mom stepped forward. "Molly, you're taking this too far. We understand you're upset, but this isn't how family treats each other. I almost laughed. Family? You think we're family? Of course, we're family, Dad said. We've had our problems, but we can work through this. Emma suddenly stopped talking and looked at me intently. Then she said, I understand everything now. You've taught me a lesson, and I get it. So, now you can give me the new apartment keys, right? No, I said simply. Her face fell. What do you mean no? I mean, my decision is final. You don't live in my apartment anymore. Find somewhere else. But I'm pregnant, Emma screamed. We have nowhere to go. You can't just throw a pregnant woman out on the street. You should have thought about that before you chose Mexico over my son's funeral. Emma stared at me for a moment, then her face twisted with anger. I know what this is really about, she said coldly. You're jealous because I'm having a baby and your son is dead. The room went completely silent. Even Jake looked shocked. You've lost your mind because Tommy died, and now you're taking it out on me because I'm pregnant and happy, Emma continued. You can't stand that I'm moving on with my life while you're stuck grieving over a kid who wasn't even that special anyway. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Get out, I shouted, louder than I'd ever shouted in my life. All of you, get out of my house right now. Mom tried to salvage the situation. Molly, Emma is right that you're not thinking clearly. You're grieving and you're making decisions that will hurt our family permanently. When you calm down, I am calm, I said, walking to the front door and holding it open. I'm calmer than I've been in months. And since Emma is right that I've lost my mind, you probably shouldn't be around me. Leave. What about all the money? Mom blurted out. You can't just cut us off financially. We depend on that help. There it was, the real reason they showed up. Not to apologize or reconnect, but because I'd stopped footing their bills. I canceled everything, I told them. Car insurance, supplements, credit cards, Emma's phone, her car, her gym membership. You're on your own now. Mom broke down in tears. Molly, we can't afford that. We're retired on a fixed income. I didn't flinch. You had $8,000 for a Mexico vacation. Figure it out. Emma screamed about lawyers and fairness as they left. I locked the door and felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For 2 weeks, I had peace. They called, texted, even showed up at my door. I blocked the numbers, ignored the emails, and didn't answer. Then Emma messed up. She posted on Facebook, calling me cruel for kicking out my pregnant sister and cutting off my elderly parents over a vacation. Her friends piled on, shocked at my cruelty. But others, people who knew about Tommy's death, David's funeral, the real timeline, started commenting. They skipped Tommy's funeral, wrote Mrs. Rodriguez, his old teacher. He was their grandson and nephew. The truth spread fast. Friends, neighbors, and church folks questioned why Emma's family prioritized a vacation over a child's funeral. I left one comment. Emma, our family broke when you, Jake, Mom, and Dad chose Mexico over saying goodbye to my 12-year-old son. You said his death was my problem. I hope the trip was worth it. The post blew up. Emma deleted it, but screenshots were already everywhere. That was 6 months ago. I haven't spoken to them since. I rented out David's apartment to a kind couple and quit my job. Now I'm traveling, something David and I always dreamed of but never did. I've seen Ireland, Italy, and Japan. I'm writing this from a cozy cafe in Prague. Next, I'm moving to Colorado. I've always loved the mountains, and nothing ties me to my hometown anymore. People ask if I miss my family. Honestly? No. I miss the family I thought I had, but that was a fantasy. The real family, the ones who chose a vacation over Tommy's funeral, I don't miss them at all. At 38, I'm finally free. Free from people who took my kindness for granted. Free to build a new life with people who truly care.